The last video on the front end app that I build for my clients blew up. I think it's just under 8,000 views at the time of this recording. So in this video, I'm going to dive even deeper. I'm going to show you the exact setup, the advanced features, and essentially how it makes the automations completely effortless for the clients. So if you want to level up your automations, then keep watching. So I build them on a software called Bolt.new. If you haven't heard of it, you literally just prompt, run, edit, and deploy full stack web and mobile apps. You'll literally just prompt something in there. You'll watch it all code and it'll create this really nice user interface for clients to use to trigger the automations. There are other platforms out there to do this. I think you got Bubble and Webflow. But for me, I think Bolt.new is just the easiest. It's the quickest. You can just prompt it even after deployment to create new and advanced features for the client. Overall, the main reason I use Bolt is just for the speed. So this is what the dashboard looks like. So you can use this for any automation that you're building for a client. So whether it's a lead gen system, a proposal generator, invoice chasing, report generation, you can use it for anyone. You're literally just telling the user to input the data. The data will then get sent to the webhook, which can get passed through the flow and the automation can complete. So for example, if you've seen a video I've done before where I literally just have created an app that goes to an automation that creates a thumbnail for me, I'll put in the title of the video, what I was wearing. So for example, in this one, I'll put beige cream hoodie or something like that. And then after I finished editing, I download the transcript from Premiere Pro and just put it in there. That acts as the prompt to put into an image generator, which generates my thumbnail, so I can just download that and put it straight into YouTube. No messing about. Since I post every day or every couple days, I thought I'll just create an app called the Thumbnail Creator, and it's really easy for me to do, and I'll press Generate Thumbnail. So for example, this one, we'll use this. Put it in there. Cream hoodie. And then I'll just copy the transcript, post it in there, and I'll press Generate Thumbnail. Then I go into my drive and go on to my YouTube thumbnails one. Obviously, I've got a hell of a lot in here. It creates 3 at a time. We'll just give it a minute. I don't think it takes too long. I think it takes about 30 seconds. One will pop in and we can see sort of the result. There it is. It comes out like this. I could optimize this, have it in Google Sheets or something. It might be a bit easier. Ooh. But there's me telling people to stop selling, apparently. Next one. This is why I do 3, just because they're not really perfect. So we got that one. Stop selling automations, and that one. So pretty crap. I'd obviously just do this again or change the title or something, so the prompt will be different for what it gets input into the image generator. But you can see sort of that I'll show you the automation. This is it in make.com. It takes the data. So if we just show you from here, it takes the data. It's got the transcript, the title, and the outfit. I then clean the transcript, so it's a lot shorter, get rid of the new lines and everything. It creates the prompts, creates the thumbnail, gets the thumbnail, and uploads into Google Drive. And that's the automation, but I never see the automation. All I see is the thumbnail creator, which is exactly the same as what clients want. They don't want to have to go into make.com, input everything into there and watch it happen. Maybe if they're a bit more technically minded, they will, but really it's so much easier to just put everything in there and then see an output. In this case, obviously it wasn't the best, but you can sort of understand the ease of use. If people who have no idea what goes on in the back end and don't really want to know, they don't have to worry about this. All they know is they input something into here and 30 seconds later, they have an output somewhere, a result. And it just makes the whole experience a lot more seamless. And that's really all you want to be doing for your customers. You want something that's easy. It makes it really easy. It looks nice. Something you can keep ideally the same as their brand, which I'll show you. You can just input their website URL and it'll do the same colors. It will keep the same brand tone of voice. It has some sort of continuity there. They don't feel like it's just been made for anyone. This is completely bespoke and tailored to them. It increases any perceived value because they're not just getting an automation built on the back end. They're not just paying for your expertise. They're now paying for an actual system. They're paying for an application. It's not just an automation anymore. It's now a software. It's a whole system that they can use, see, touch, feel, and just increases the whole user experience. You can also charge even higher retainers for this because since it is now a software, the retainers will be higher because there's more for you to manage. There's more for you to look after. For example, if they want like an add-on later on, so they've got a lead gen system and they want an add-on of the phone calling system or something, you can just prompt Bolt once it's already been deployed and have another bit in here calling to another webhook that will start that automation as well. So every single automation is still within one app. And I'll get onto that shortly. So here's another example that I've made. If you've seen the video where I create an automation that takes a make.com blueprint and changes it into what NA10 call a workflow. So you can change a blueprint from make.com into a blueprint for the workflow for NA10, even though it's the exact same automation. Change one automation, essentially just one automation from make into NA10. So again, I didn't want to just keep starting the automation myself. So I post the make.com blueprint in here, press this button here to convert to NA10. And then again, that outputs something into Google Drive here. It outputs the NA10 blueprint converter and it will upload it into here. So it's easy for me to just upload into NA10. So I don't have to just make the whole workflow again from scratch. Here's an example of one I created for a client who wanted the lead generation system. Normally his company name will be at the top, but obviously for obvious reasons, I've got rid of that for now. But this is exactly what his website looks like. It's really simple, gold and black, really slick, sexy. So we wanted to keep that sort of brand tone of voice, which is why I just put in the URL of his website and it created the app really similarly to how his website looks. So for him, what he was doing, he uses ListKit to get his leads. So he didn't want to trigger a lead scraping automation. He wanted to trigger an automation which reads or searches for the rows in our case, for make.com's case, searches for the rows in the spreadsheet, and then the automation goes and makes the personalization and adds them into whatever email sending tool he uses, which for this case was SmartLead. So we needed to input the campaign ID, the industry. So for this example, he wasn't really he didn't really trust ListKit's industry column. So he said before he's meant to reach out to investment firms and ended up reaching out to a few schools who obviously flagged him as spam, which wasn't good. So we add a step in there to make sure it's the correct industry. So he'll put in the correct industry, say investment management. After the perplexity stage, which does the deep research, it checks the output of that for the actual industry against the one that he's input here, and it will check to see if it's right, and if it is, it carries on through the flow and gets added in. If it's not right, it will stop there and won't get added into SmartLead. He needs to put in the spreadsheet ID. So essentially the spreadsheet that he's exported from ListKit, I think that's what they're called. Might be kit list or something like that, ListKit. He gets the spreadsheet ID, which is in the URL, puts it in there. So we make sure we're searching the rows for the correct spreadsheet ID. I'll go into the automation and show you this exactly as well. The sheet name, the destination, and the destination sheet name, because actually I'm just reminding myself, he wanted to double check over the personalizations before he actually added them into SmartLead. You can obviously add them in via a CSV file, but he wanted to just have them added into a Google Sheets so he could check that everything's all right. And I'll show you what this looks like within make.com. So this is how it worked. I set up the webhook. And as you can see, it gets the spreadsheet ID, the sheet name, the campaign ID, this was a test, the correct industry, the destination spreadsheet ID, and the destination sheet name. Now, the reason we need this, because if we were to click into here, you can see that the spreadsheet ID, we've mapped in directly from here. The sheet name, we've mapped in directly from here. Now, this is obviously linked up to his Google account. So as long as he's got the Google Sheets there, it's just going to search the rows for that spreadsheet ID and that sheet name. Then it takes everything and sends it to another webhook in another scenario to make sure we can then do the personalizations, etc., and add them to the Google Sheets at the end. So for example, I mentioned the destination sheet ID and the sheet name and the industry. That all just gets passed from this webhook, which gets the data from the app and passes it to the next scenario, so we can dynamically map that in as well later down the line. But I hope you sort of see and getting an idea of how this works. So I've come over to Apify and I'm just going to create some sort of automation with you, a really random one. I haven't even thought it through, but just to sort of show you how this would work. So you've got 4,000 actors here. So there's a potential of 4,000 different automations that can do different things. So if we just scroll down and pick one. That's a shit one. Let's say you wanted to scrape, what could we do? Let's do Crunchbase. Let me search for Crunchbase on here and see which one is the best one that hopefully doesn't use cookies. Yeah, cool. So here you just put in Crunchbase URLs. And Crunchbase just tells you all the information on these people. So here's Crunchbase, right? And this is an industry, SaaS, growth category, growing. So these are companies, SaaS companies that are likely growing. So let's say you have a client who wants to target only SaaS companies who have maybe got recent funding, or like it says here, are likely growing or growing pretty quickly, and they want to help them out with whatever software or product or service it is that your client sells. But they want to do this all autonomously. So what would you do? Instead of telling them to sign up to Crunchbase, you'd create an app for them. So if we go onto Apify, it is $59 a month, but plus usage. So that's something that obviously the client would have to pay. We can get a free trial for a day, so that's what we're going to do. X all these, put in the URL from here. This is the first time doing this, so I don't even know if this is how it's meant to be done. Paste it in there, and then you can go on, make sure this is all right, no timeout. Go on JSON, and there you have everything that you need. So let's say the example I gave you before, you've got a client that needs to scrape stuff like that, stuff from Crunchbase that would be really helpful. So they might have a product or service that would help SaaS companies that are likely growing. So that's who they want to be reaching out to. So what you could do is go into here, create a webhook, custom webhook. Let's add it. Let's just call it YouTube app video, so I know which one to delete afterwards. Copy address to clipboard, and you'll go into Bolt and start typing away with what it is you want to build. So create. The way you'd actually probably do it, just before I really get into this, is understand the whole automation first, exactly what it is you're going to be doing. I've just thought of this off the top of my head, so I can't really walk you through it. But essentially, you'd just reverse engineer. So you'd find out exactly what it is that the client wants. You'd map out the automation, and you'd think of the end goal, what it is, whether it's adding leads instantly or creating some sort of reporting and analytics graph, something like that. And you'd think, what is all the data that's needed to finish this automation? What is all the data? And you'd reverse engineer, and you'd go right from the back, the end goal, and you'd think back, and you think of all the points that are meant to be, all the bits of data that's meant to be included in this automation. Write that down, and then you'd give it to Bolt in a prompt. You'd say, okay, make sure there's an input for this for this URL, make sure there's an input for X, make sure there's an input for Y and an input for Z, and you tell it exactly what you want. In this situation, since I'm not building out a whole automation, I'm just showing you how to get data from the app into make.com or NA10. In this instance, all we've seen here is that I need find contact's position, who it is exactly they're looking to find. So it's a finder or director. So in here, in Bolt, we put create an application to be used to trigger a lead finding automation. Have the input boxes as, what was that position, was it? Let's put decision maker. We needed the URL of the Crunchbase search. So we'd do Crunchbase URL search or search URL. But you're sort of getting the gist. So for example, this is what is needed to be put in the find contact's position, founder director. We need the URL or the URLs. So I'll put in here like that, and we'll just tell it to go. Normally you'd give it a bit more of a prompt. For example, I've just missed out the webhook that I was meant to put in. I'll show you how that works, but you'd also give it the URL of the website of the prospect, so it knows the brand, tone of voice, the colors, stuff like that. And you literally just watch it code. You watch it do everything. So if I'm going to go back to here, copy the address to clipboard of the webhook, go back into Bolt, make sure all data is sent to this webhook. Even though I've spelled webhook wrong, it's still going to understand what's needed. And now, like I say, it's just going down and coding everything. All done. There we go. And it gives you the app. So decision maker, obviously it's decision maker name. That's wrong. You'd need to prompt it. Decision maker position, not name. And it's just going to code everything, change it, and make sure it's correct. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more you'd add in. So for example, we'll use the example that I use. So this prospect of yours is trying to find decision makers within SaaS companies who are likely to grow. So there's it. That's what you need. But you're probably going to have to find these people's emails, which you won't need an app input for. But you are going to need a place where it's going to end. So is it going to be instantly? Which then workspace would it be? What's the campaign ID? Because you'd need that, etc., etc. So there's the Crunchbase search URL. No, it's not. There is. Back into Bolt there, and let's say founder. And also, that's going to be multiple, isn't it? So is this listening? You see this is listening, trigger, and successfully determined, meaning the data is now ready to be sent to the webhook. Add in multiple options for the what was that? Decision maker position. But you see, that's the data that's going to come through to the webhook. We then need to run this actor somehow. So to do that through an API call, we go over to API endpoints, run actor is here. But I believe in make.com anyway, you can get there you go, run an actor. You'd connect to your Apify account. which I believe is that one. Yeah, you'd do that. And then the input JSON, you'd go back over to Crunchbase, or sorry, Apify. You'd copy this input JSON. You'd want it to be a bit nicer than that. So you'd go JSON formatter, paste it in there, format beautify, copy back into here, paste it in, nice. Find contacts false. I think that is actually going to be true. Now, in here, we'll do that afterwards. URLs as well. You'd probably want to add more URLs just in case the customer wants more URLs, and you can add that in. But for the moment, you'll delete that. Use browser true. Not 100% sure what that means, but there you go. Unlink, run this. Go back into Bolt. Here you go. Look at that. That's pretty cool. So let's say we're going to look for, well, founder. Cool. That's really cool. CEO. And you can delete him like so. Yeah, that is really cool. Founder, CEO. We want the head of engineering, CTO, etc., etc. Go into Crunchbase, copy that. So this is what the prospect is going to use. Trigger lead finding, and let's see what comes through. Since these are all coming through as an array, you can't actually dynamically map those in. You see decision makers is just one director of engineering, whereas there's 3 here. So what we could do is iterate over them, give it that array. That would split them up into bundles. Aggregate those bundles into one bit of text. Which would be the iterator. Separator will separate by a comma. And then user tools, set multiple variables. We'll do position 1, get, split, text, split it by a comma, and get position number 1. And let's say position 2, and for argument's sake, position 3. Just copy this, change that to 2, change that to 3, and then ideally what this should then do, if we take a look, get 3 different positions, get the Crunchbase URL, trigger lead finding, and we've got in here the decision makers and the Crunchbase URL. We've iterated that to get the 3 different positions, aggregated it so it's one text, because if you, I'll show you why we do this in a moment. And then this should give you 3 different positions, which you could then quite easily input into here. And what you just have to tell the prospect is that they can only do a maximum, or you could ask them how many they think they're going to be doing, how many positions they think they're going to be searching for, and tell them that they can't do a maximum of that, really, because otherwise it would break the JSON. Because say you did that, well, I suppose you could actually, and you could just do a few of these, but always make sure that the last one doesn't have a comma and it just ends like that. And you could have position 4, position 3, but they could just be null anyway. And then you got the Crunchbase URLs, save, and that's that. Because if you just say, let's get rid of the aggregator, and you just did it like so, you wouldn't be able to map. See, there's only one of them to map. So you need to grab each of them separately, and that's the way I've always done it. And there you go. So they've input into an app. We iterate it, aggregate, set the variables, and then this would, once that's run, would run an actor with those exact. So it's going to find those positions and it's going to use that URL and it's going to start scraping that URL. And then what you'd have to do is create another scenario that gets the data set items from the actor and then goes on and does the rest of the automation. But I hope you can sort of see, how this would work. Obviously, they don't see any of this. All they get is this, and they go, okay, I want to search for that, that, and that. Here's the URL that I want to search for, trigger. And then a few minutes down the line, whatever the end goal of the automation is, they'll get the results spat out, and that's all they see. Obviously, this is a bit boring. I do really like this functionality here. I think that's really cool that they can just search for that. And this is actually a really good idea for me at the moment because I'm currently helping a startup with this sort of thing where they actually do want to be searching for Series A funding companies, and Crunchbase is a great way to do it. And obviously there's an actor on Apify that you can just scrape, and this is how they'd start the automation, which makes it really easy. So now let's do the same within NA10, and it's literally just as simple. You'd add the first step, what triggers this workflow. You get a lot of options within NA10, but it's literally just going to be on webhook call. Then you get, it's literally the same sort of way as make. It'll give you a URL. You can then use the listen for the test event and successfully determine the data structure. So you'd put this as a post, copy the webhook URL, go into Bolt, change the webhook to, paste it in. Watch it do its thing. It just needs to update it. Another thing you could do, I know I mentioned that they can only search for a certain amount of positions. If that's how you wanted it to do it, you could just prompt Bolt to only allow for a maximum number of positions, or it could have just 3 separate boxes where they type it in, and it's okay if they leave 1 or 2 boxes clear. It's not okay if they add more into those boxes. The app won't allow it to trigger. So for example, I have one for a guy who scrapes Apollo through Apify. We didn't want to get him banned or anything because he was going to be using it a lot. So there's like a 3-hour cooldown. As soon as he presses, see, I can't even press it now because I haven't input anything. Now it would allow me to press it. But as soon as he presses trigger automation, that's it. It then does a countdown. It's really cool. It says 2 hours, 59. And then we'll just count down every second until he's allowed to actually use the workflow again, use the automation again. Right, so that's been updated. We'll get it to listen. Once I just copy that over, paste it in, we'll ask NA10 to listen for a test event. Back into Bolt, trigger, go into here, and there you go. There's the output. And it's all ready to then carry on with the automation. So you could literally just copy everything you've done in here, in make, and make the automation in NA10. It's literally that simple. You just copy and paste the webhook URL, put it into Bolt, and test the data structure and make sure it's all good and receiving data goodly. Well, I don't know. And an important thing you're gonna want to do here is just mention to the client. If you're doing it within NA10, the good thing is that you can self-host very cheaply, and you can just literally sell them a software. You can just sell them the app and have it all on your account. Saves them stealing the automation and taking it away and reselling it themselves. Or if you're in make.com, a main thing you're going to want to mention to them, especially within make.com, is because they're going to have to set it up on a make.com account. You just have to say to them, I know I'm setting you up on this account. Just don't mess with any of the data, because the reason for this app is so it makes it incredibly easy for you. You input something and it outputs something. The automation on the back end is designed to take data from your input from the app, structure it in a way, or take the data in a structured way to then carry on the automation. If you were then to start it within make.com and bypass the app, it might break, it might not work. Just remember that this automation is designed and created and made for that purpose, for the app, for you to input it on there. It's not just for me or for the automation, it's for you, really. It's for the prospect to find it incredibly easy, nice, sexy, all the other things, instead of them having to trigger it themselves via doing something themselves on make.com. But if you were to do it on NA10, you could just self-host and just sell them the app and manage the app. And it's as simple and easy as that. And obviously I've already spoken about the monetization side of it, how you can actually charge more for its perceived value now that it's just an app and you've built the automations on the back end. But also then you can do a higher retainer, because you're not just managing an automation, you're also managing this app, this coded app that you've created. You can also then just prompt Bolt. If say, obviously with this business model and what I've spoken about before, once you've sold them one automation, you want to keep them incredibly happy for the next 2 months or so, and then you can start upselling. Okay, this is also what we could do. This is what we could put on as an add-on. I can make this a lot easier for you, automate that, etc., etc. This can all then just be prompted into Bolt.new to create more sections within the app that starts another automation. Or you could have, in fact, I'll just show you. If you look on here, this is what I use as a demo. There's 2 separate automations here. One that searches for their ICP if they can't be bothered to go do the search themselves on Apollo or LinkedIn. One that searches for it and that will trigger its own separate webhook. Or they could just do this one and press start automation. That would trigger one webhook. So there's 2 completely different automations all in one app. It just makes it so much easier for them. They don't then have to have loads of different apps or loads of different scenarios within make.com, or they don't have to worry about NA10, anything like that. They can just have everything condensed into one app, 5 automations, 10 automations in one app, 10 different buttons that do 10 different, completely different things. And it just makes it so much better user experience, better ease, it just makes it so much easier. And your clients are just going to be blown away and so happy with what you've created. So that's pretty much it. It's a much bigger deep dive into what I create. I know it helped so much more of you out last time. You might have been confused about the service delivery side. This just makes the service delivery so much easier, and I really hope this deep dive has helped you. I really hope it does as well as the last video. And look, if you want any more clarity on anything, I hope I've explained it really well, but if you need any more help, drop it in the comments. I'll reply to absolutely everyone, so drop it in the comments. I'll help you out. Drop me a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Take care.